Hey there, Chris from Crux Interfacing, congratulating you on the purchase of your brand new Crux SOOFD-27 wiring harness adapter, which is going to allow you to wire and install your new aftermarket radio to your select Ford, Lincoln, and Mercury vehicles from 2005 and up. In this unboxing, we're going to show you everything that's included with your new harness adapter, along with the instructions on how to get it wired up to your new aftermarket radio. These are the specific vehicle makes and models that this harness applies to when installing your new aftermarket radio. From Ford, Lincoln, and Mercury vehicles, it fits years from 2005 and up. There's a ton of different models here, so let's go ahead and get this box pulled apart to show you everything that this wiring harness adapter radio interface includes. So with the box now pulled apart, you can see everything that this radio replacement interface kit includes. You have your main wiring harness adapter, which comes ready to go to plug into your select Ford, Lincoln, and Mercury vehicle factory harnesses. No manual wiring needed, and it comes ready to go to be wired directly to whatever aftermarket radio you choose to install. Now we'll cover this in great detail here in a moment, but additionally it includes your smart module. Finally, it also includes a very detailed instruction manual, which we're actually going to walk you through step by step. Let's take a closer look at the instruction manual provided by our radio replacement harness from Crux. Now this retains the factory aux-in subwoofer if equipped, and we'll show you those plugs here in a moment when we take a closer look at the harness itself. Retains the RAP, or retained accessory power feature. It's EIA color coded to make it easy to pair up to the new aftermarket radio you've chosen to install in your Ford, Lincoln, or Mercury vehicle. Now, a couple important notes. As mentioned before, this does not retain steering wheel volume controls, those buttons on the steering wheel that control the radio itself. If you have those in your Ford, Lincoln, or Mercury vehicle, you'll need that version of the Crux harness, which we can link that information down in the description for you. Also, this does not retain your factory Ford sync or factory Bluetooth if so equipped, and it's not compatible with any sort of upgraded factory amplified sound system. You can still have the factory subwoofer, but if you have the Sony or THX systems that you see in your vehicle, if you see that logo anywhere, this isn't the right harness for you. Finally, down here on the bottom of the page, Crux does an excellent job identifying which color wire does what, so you're not wondering how to wire this to your new aftermarket radio. Looking a little bit closer here at the top, yellow is going to be our constant 12 volt or memory wire, where it's going to be that generated accessory. So when you turn on the key, it'll turn on the radio. That's your 12 volt accessory. Black is generally your ground. Now orange is going to be an illumination wire, so when you turn on your headlights, it should dim your radio. Violet white is going to be a vehicle speed sense or VSS wire. Now commonly purple white or violet white is generally a backup camera trigger wire, but in this case our trigger wire jumping down a little bit below for a reverse camera is red black. So don't get that mixed up. Violet white in our application today with this Crux harness is a vehicle speed sense. Blue white is an amplifier turn on, so if you have the base factory amp, not the Sony or THX system, but just the base amplifier that powers that factory sub to trigger that amp to turn on when the radio does as well. Solid blue is the amplified antenna trigger wire. Parking brake wire is going to be yellow black. Now commonly parking brake is a lighter green, but in this case it's going to be yellow black. We just talked about the trigger wire, which is red black, which essentially you'll hook that up to your radio, so when you put the vehicle in reverse, it'll automatically cycle over the radio to the reverse image when you're backing up. Now the next section here talks about all your speaker wire connections. Now, as mentioned before, you have two RCA ends. You have an RCA white and red, as well as a black RCA. The white and the red on the harness adapter. That specifically is in case you have the factory aux jack in your vehicle. If you don't have factory aux, you don't even need to worry about hooking this up. This harness, if you have factory aux and your radio is compatible, will need to connect into the aux input on the back of your radio. Finally, the black RCA will go to the subwoofer output on your radio in the event, once again, you have that factory sub and you want that sub to work with the new radio. This supplies that bass amplifier the signal it needs so that sub knows what to play. You have an 8-pin, 16-pin, and 24-pin harness. You'll plug in the connections that fit or are available back behind the radio, and then your 16-pin black connector simply plugs into the Crux module. Now there is some troubleshooting on the top left-hand corner. The Crux module does have a light indicator to show you exactly kind of what's going on. So if you get it all connected and you're having issues with it, refer to this little box in the top left hand corner to identify, based on the LED flash, what the issue is with your install. Further down in your instructions talks about the rear speaker audio cuts. Now, where this comes into play and why it's important, if you have the rear seat entertainment or the flip down screen from Ford directly, OEM installed equipment, not an aftermarket flip down screen but a factory one, you may encounter issues or audio issues where the rear speakers could be cutting out. So now, to correct this issue, you have to make some jumpers in that 32-pin harness of the RSE connector back behind the radio in order for those output of the speakers to work properly. So it identifies here the 4 jumpers that need to be connected between the factory colors. The RAP feature, as mentioned before, allows the radio to stay on until the vehicle goes to sleep. So a lot of the time when you open up the door, that's when the radio shuts off after the key's been removed. With the factory radio, it replicates that function with your new aftermarket one. Let's take a closer look at our harness itself. Now our harness comes ready to go with your Ford Lincoln Mercury vehicle plugs. These female harnesses will connect directly into the OEM plugs that were in the original radio. On this end of the harness, this is where you're going to wire those specifically into your new aftermarket radio's harness. We've already talked about how to identify those colors based on the instructions there. You do have additional other connections here which you won't use in your application here today. Now when you're ready to make the connections to your new aftermarket radio, we strongly suggest that you don't simply just twist and tape, or even worse, use wire nuts from Home Electrical, as they're just not designed for an automotive application. Alternatively, we suggest you either crimp or solder your connections, and you can crimp by using butt connectors, or even better, crimp caps. And if you have the means to do so, soldering and heat shrinking your connections will give you a strong connection there to eliminate any potential shorts down the road. This end here simply plugs into your Crux module. You have the aux harness retention. You'll have to connect this into your aux input if so equipped on your radio. Sometimes the aux input's like a traditional 3.5mm jack input, so you can buy an adapter to convert that into that versus an RCA input. Then finally, if you do have the factory sub that's not the Sony or THX system, this will plug into the subwoofer output on the back of the radio. So that's about it for this Crux unboxing. If you have any questions on the Crux interface, go ahead and post a comment below. Like I mentioned before, if you need the version that retains your steering wheel volume controls, we'll link that specific harness down in the description of this video. Thanks again for watching. Be sure to hit the like button if you liked what you saw, and don't forget to subscribe. Post great content on the channel all the time, and we will see you in the next video.